Good morning. Welcome to this live stream. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be building Connect 4 in Blazor WebAssembly. Now Connect 4 is where you have two players where one player is red and the other player is yellow. Each player takes alternative turns and drops their coloured discs on a 7-column by 6-row grid. When the player takes their turn, the disc will fall into the lowest unoccupied space in the column. Now the aim of the game is to get 4 of their pieces in the row. Now this can be done horizontally, vertically or diagonally. So we're going to be building this in a .NET application with Blazor WebAssembly. We're against the time, we've only got an hour to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've already prepared a Blazor WebAssembly project. Let's go ahead and do that. So there you go, you can see we've got the Blazor WebAssembly project on the screen. So we've taken out all the default options that are on there, like the weather forecast and all that sort of stuff, and we're almost effectively running with a blank canvas. So let's run that and just make sure it's going to work. So we're going to run it on localhost 4100 and let's see if that's going to work. Yes, so we can see our test project is running. So we've got an hour to do this, and I'm just going to set up the timer on the screen, and once that's set up we'll be ready to go. Remember, this is a live stream as well, so get your messages in and I'll read them out as we're going along. Okay, we're just about to set up the timer, then we'll be good to go. If you wish to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, go to youtube.com/roundthecode. This is our second live stream. We did one a couple of weeks ago with tic-tac-toe. Connect 4 is going to be very similar to this as well, I believe. Right, off we go. The hour has started. Let's get going. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create some models. So if we go into new folder, create a new folder called models. And we're going to go in here. We're going to create an enum first. Go ahead and set that up. Call it piece enum. So this will represent the actual piece, the actual disk that actually gets dropped down. So in the game we've got a yellow and a red. So we can just set that in the piece enum. Let's go ahead now. I'm going to create another new model. And we're going to call this one space. So this will represent each space in the actual grid. Finally, well, before we do that, actually, we need to set a property because we need to know whether it's a yellow or a red piece that's actually dropped down to it. So in order to do that, we're going to set a piece enum type, and we're going to call it piece. We'll set it as get protected set. So we will also create another function, and we're going to call it set piece. And then what we're doing there, that will actually set what piece is part of that square, like that. Make that nullable as well. Okay, the final model we need to create is a grid model. We're going to create a grid class. So within here we're going to have an array of the piece enum. It's going to be a 2D array. We're going to create a new instance of grid up here. Now in Connect 4 you have 7 columns across and 6 rows down. So we're going to set that as constants. We're going to have columns 7 and rows as 6. So when we create a new instance of grid, we're actually going to set an instance of this pieces here. We need to set that as protected set. When we reset the game, we're going to want to create a new instance of pieces, which we'll do a bit later on in the stream. So then once we initialize the grid, we're going to set a new instance of pieces. We do that. Yeah. New piece enum, and we set the number of columns and the number of rows, like so. Okay, so that's our model set up for now. What we're going to do now is we're going to build up some Razor components in Blazor. So we've got our index.razor in here, but we're going to create a new one, and we're going to call it grid component. I'm going to get rid of this default index here. What we need to do as well is we need to route it to the actual index page. So to do that, we can do the @page, and we just assign it to /. So what we need to do on this page is we need to get an instance of the grid. We need to actually create an instance. So first of all, we're going to create a property of grid. We need to bring in the namespace for that. So the namespace is roundthecode.connect4.models. Now we're going to override the onInitialized async method. When we do that, we're going to create our new instance of grid. So what that's going to do is it's going to come into this model, go into this constructor here, and create our pieces instance for us. So this pieces is basically going to represent each of the square or the actual disks, the actual spaces on the grid, which will come apparent as we get on with the actual application. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and try and populate it. In fact, we're going to do that. We'll do that in a bit, I think. What we're going to do next is we're going to create another Razor component, and we're going to call this one square component. Square? No, that's not a good name for it, because it's not a square. It's a disk which is circular. So let's go for piece component. So within this, we need to have an instance of space, I believe. Do we need an instance of space there? Yes, I think we do. Maybe we need that as space. Yeah, we're going to rename that to space component. Yep, I think that's all fine. Hopefully. So space component we've got there. And within this, we need to have an instance of space. I'm going to create a property, call it space. I need to bring in the actual reference for it as well. So once again, roundthecode.connect4.models. And we need to set it as a parameter as well, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this as part of our actual grids as well. So we need to pass in an instance of the space from the grid piece enum array. What we need to do is we need to, maybe I'm getting a bit confused here. We'll come back to that in a minute. For now, we're going to set that as that. I'm going to create a diff around it for now. What I think we're going to have to do is actually set it like that. I don't know if we need that space or not. Maybe like that. Let's go with that. We're going to pass in a PC num for now, because obviously with the grid we've got an array which is piece enum array, a nullable piece enum. So let's go with that now and see how we get on. So now we're going to go ahead and populate our grid. So in order to do that, we're going to start with the columns as well. That's the first part of the array. So we go to grid and we go to pieces and we need get lower bound. That's the first part of the 2D array. And then for the last bit, we go for grid.pieces.get upper bound array. And we append one each time like that. Now we need to create a local instance of the column number, and the reason being is that we're going to use that for when we actually click on the actual column. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new div around here. We're going to need to create an onClick for that as well. And we're going to create a new function down here. We'll call it column click. We're going to pass in the event argument, so when we click on it. And we also need to pass in the column number as well. And this is going to represent up here. So on the actual screen, a person will click on the particular column that they wish to drop their piece down, and then it will run this onClick event and will do what it needs to do within this column click method. So we need to get the E, which is the event argument, and then we're going to call column click, something like that. So E is the mouse event argument, and C is our column here, which we set a local variable for. The problem being is that if we just use col, by the time you actually render the actual onClick event, it will be set to 6 or 7. It will be at the end of its for loop, so it won't actually have the correct number. Okay, so we've got that far. Now we need to go ahead and loop through all the rows as well. So this is the second part of our 2D array, but we need to do it the other way as well because we're dropping it from the bottom down and going up. So in order to do that, we call grid.pieces.get upper bound. Row is bigger or equal to get lower bound. And we're taking one away each time. Like that. Now what we're going to do within this is we're going to call our space component. So this is this here, and we need to pass in the piece in as a parameter. Try and find out why that's not. I might just have to create that again, actually thinking about it. Let's have a look. I'm going to go ahead and, I think there's actually an issue with Visual Studio at the moment. Crashed in terms of triggering the actual errors. So go ahead and hopefully this will work for us. In here we need to call our grid.pieces, and it's going to be the column and the row, and that's going to get set in like that. Go ahead and run that and just see if that's actually going to run for us. We're going to give this a test and make sure that everything's working at the moment. And we've still got an error there. It has managed to successfully build. It is running, so that's all good. Will you help me in deciding Blazor WASM for my next project? Well, I hope so. Hopefully the final product comes out the way it should do, and all being well, it should be fine. Okay, so we've got a blank screen at the moment, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. See what's being rendered. Yeah, so we've got all the divs there as well, as you can see. And we've got the spaces as well. Obviously, we haven't put anything in there. We haven't done any styling yet. So I think that'll be the next thing to actually do. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you joined me on my tic-tac-toe stream a couple of weeks ago, you would have learnt that you can actually create CSS files within a particular Razor component. So we're going to do exactly the same here. We're going to set up a grid component.razor.css. So with that, it follows the conventions of your file, of your Razor component file name, and you just need to add .css next to it. This is a feature for .NET 5 as well. So as long as you're using .NET 5 for your Blazor WebAssembly application, it should all work fine. So within this, we've got a div of column. So I'm going to go ahead and put some styling onto that. We're going to restrict it to, say, 14%. In fact, what we need to do first is we need to create another div up here. Call it grid. I don't think you should be confused with the future of Blazor. I think Angular is popular at the moment, but Blazor is using WebAssembly, which is relatively new. But I think going forward, I think Blazor is a little bit ahead of its time. But going forward, I really think that it's going to take off. I have seen some jobs out there that do require you to use Blazor. So I think it's definitely the future. And I think Microsoft are really going to push it in the future versions of .NET. I mean, they were pushing it a lot in .NET 5. So I really think, you know, the future is bright for Blazor, in my opinion. Right, let's get back to this. So we're going to put some styling on here. So we're going to have a grid component. We're going to have got 7 columns along there. So do 700. Let's do 1400 pixels. And each column is going to have a background color. In fact, it's just going to be 200 pixels. Is that how we want to do it? I might just have to have a look at this, just see the best way of styling it. Just see how we can actually do this. Okay, I think what we can do, yeah, I think that's fine. We want to make this in the center as well. So we're going to set it margin left auto, margin right auto. I'm going to set a height of 700 pixels there. And the column, we've got a width 200 float left. So that's for the grid. For the space component, I'm going to create another new CSS file. We're going to follow the same conventions with the actual file space, the actual naming of the file. So we're going to call it space component razor.css. So within this at the moment, we've got space, but we're going to, yes, we'll leave it like that, I think. So within this, we're going to set some CSS in here. So for the dot space, each little piece will be a width of 50 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. I'm going to have a background color of blue. I'm going to put a border around it. We'll put some padding around it as well. So the top and the bottom will do 15 pixels, and for the left and the right it'll be 40 pixels. Now what we're going to do in a minute is we're actually going to set our piece within the space, but we're just going to create the CSS files first for it. Also, please do Google authentication and state management in future stream. Yep, I will bear that one in mind. I might not be able to do it for a stream. I might have to do it as a recorded one, but I will definitely bear that one in mind. So we set the background color there for red. We're going to have a radius of 50%, so this will make it actually circular. We're going to have a width of 70 pixels and a height of 70 pixels. I'm going to do the same for yellow, so we're just going to do a copy and paste for this. And need to close that off. Let's go back into our space component now. Now, if the piece has been set, what we can do here is we can just create a new class. What did we call it in the space component? We called it piece. So we can get the piece dot value. Oh, what's on there? Convert that to a string. And make it lower. Like that. Does it like that? Yes, it does. That's good. I'm not liking that at the moment. But let's give that a run now. Let's give it a build and a run, and let's just make sure. Hopefully, we should have some grids appearing on our screen now. So we should have some blue background grids, all being well. No, that's still not working. Let's see what's going on here. We've got our columns in there, we've got our spaces, so that's all good. There we go, that's a bit better. It looks a bit, but don't quite know what's going on there. I think we might have done the width a bit too much on the actual grid. 1400 pixels, let me just check on that. Yes, we need to take that down to 1050 pixels. Give that a go. Hopefully that should bring it all in now. No, that's still not quite right, is it? Something's still not going on. Let's double check on all of this and see what's going on here. That should be 14%. I think the actual column width was a little bit too long, and I think that's the reason why it's working. There we go. There we go. We got our 7 columns by 6 row grid there. So we've got the foundations in place. Next thing we want to do is we actually want to set up the game so the actual pieces actually get represented every time we actually click on the actual column that we wish to drop it down. So what we're going to do with that is we created our column click here. So we need to go ahead now. We've got our column name there. We need to go ahead and we need to get all the rows that are available. So the rows are being set in our second part of our dimension. So we need to call grid.pieces.get lower bound 1 row grid.pieces.get upper bound 1 . And there we go. So this is part of an array, this piece is. So this get lower bound will get the lower bound of the second part of the actual dimension. So that will be 0. And this will get the upper bound as well. So if we go back into our grids, we can see we're creating a new instance here of columns, which is 7, and rows, which is 6. So this is going to represent 6 here because it's the upper bound of the second part of the actual array, which is that part there. Hope that makes sense. So let me just check that's in the right place. I think it is. Yes. So what we need to do now is we need to do a check because we're dropping it down. But the thing is, up here we're reversing it as well. So we need to find the first piece that's the first actual column that's actually unoccupied. Well, the first actual row that's unoccupied. So what we can do here is we can call our grid.pieces. We've got our column passing in through the actual method. And we've got our row there as well. So if it's not got a value, we go ahead and actually set it as well. Now we need to know, we've done something we haven't done here, is we need to know whose turn it actually is. So we need to set a new property in this pieces class. I'm going to call it PCNum next turn get and a protected set. Yeah, wondering why that was coming up with an error then, but just needed to catch up on itself. The next turn, by default, we're always going to have it as red. What we're going to do in here is we're going to set a new function or a new method, set next turn. And what this simply is going to do is that if the next turn is set to red, then it's yellow's turn, and then vice versa. So if next turn is red, set that to yellow, copy that in. Otherwise, set it to red. Like that. So now what we can do is we'll set that to the grid.nextTurn. So when the game's loaded, it will be red. But then what we can do is we can call this set next turn here. So we call grid.setNextTurn, and that will then set it to yellow. Then it will be yellow's turn. They will go through it and click on the relevant column. It will drop down and it will keep changing. So let's go ahead now and let's just see if that's actually working for us. If that is working for us, then we can go ahead and actually determine who the actual winner is. Well, the aim of this game is to get 4 in a row as well. So we'll walk through that if this is working. So let's give this a refresh. Okay, still no, not quite working, is it? And the reason why that's not working is because we need to break out of this. Otherwise, it's just going to keep on doing it. So if we break out of that, and all being well, this should work. So that's now running for us. There we go. Although it's not changing the color for some reason, so we need to have a look at that. But at least we're able to drop our pieces down onto the actual grid. So that's at least something. Let's find out what's going on with the actual. Why is it not doing? So if next turn equals red, then set it to yellow. Otherwise, set it to red. So that should all be fine. So I'm wondering if there's an issue with our CSS. Let's go ahead. Yes, there we go. We just quite simply need to set that to yellow. So that's obviously something I forgot to do. So we can run that again and just make sure. How are we doing for time? We've got 32 minutes left. We still need to determine who the winner is, which is a bit more complicated than our tic-tac-toe example that we did a couple of weeks ago. The issue with that, we could actually explicitly, because there were only 8 or 9 different combinations of how you could win, we could explicitly define how you could actually win the game. But with this one, it's a bit more complicated. It's a bigger grid and you've got to get 4 in a row. Let's just give this a run first. Make sure now that we've got red and yellow appearing. There you go, you see. And it's dropping it from the bottom up as well, which is exactly what we want. Now to determine the winner, as I said, it's a bit more complicated, so I did prepare some code beforehand, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it, and I'll talk you through what it's actually doing. So we're going to add this into our grid section. Okay, that's all good. So we've created this class here, check index. It's passing in our column and row, relatively straightforward. What we've got here is we've got a check group. This is passing in the column, the row, and it's also passing in a delegate with 3 integers and returning a check index. Now what this is going to do is it's going to go through, four of the actual spaces next to each other. Now this can be done horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. So it will go through, it will create a new instance of check index here, and this is represented up here. So we've got our column and our row, and it's passing in column, row, and check index. And the check index is doing the column plus the check index. So the check index is this for loop here. So it will go through and add an index depending on what the check index is. So it will go ahead and do that. It will make sure that it's within the actual bounds of the array. If it's not, it just returns a null. And then it will check our pieces array, which is up here, this piece enum here. And it will actually get what piece is set. If it's null, or it's not equal to the last check, so the last check is what was set in here before the for loop goes to the next number, it will return a null. Assuming it's always the same, it will append the last check value with the this check value, and it'll keep on doing that. Now assuming that never changes, it will return the last check. Now if we go up here, this check group is returning the winner, and assuming the winner has a value, it will return the winner. So I'm hoping that makes sense. Now you'll be able to download the source code for this at roundthecode.com/code-examples a couple of hours after the stream has ended, so you can have a look for yourself and see how it's working. Now then, the next bit we need to do, I'm actually surprised that's not throwing any errors because we haven't set that winner. Oh, the winner's up there, isn't it? Yeah, that's fine. So what we need to do now is we need to set a new property of winner, get protected set. Another thing we need to do as well is we need to create a new method called reset game. Now I'm going to move this functionality out of here and put it in here. And I'm going to call reset game here. So this means that every time we reset the game, it creates a new instance of our pieces, which will effectively clear the board. We also need to make sure that the winner is set to null. Now on this set next turn here, this is where we can run our get winner method and to see if there's actually a winner or not. So we can go ahead and do that. Do we need to call? Yes. Yes, we do. Is that returning? That's returning the winner as well. So we call our get winner. If winner has a value, then we can go ahead. We can set the next turn to the winner. So the winner should get the next go. Should get the first go if it was to be reset. Otherwise, we do our check here. So now that that's set, let's go back to our grid razor component. So what we want to do in here is if we've got a winner, we don't want to be able to actually set a piece in here. If we call grid.winner has value, just return that. What we're going to do next is we're going to actually set some messaging up here just to make sure that it's working properly. If we do grid.winner has value, maybe, yes. Then we can dictate who's actually won. So we say grid.winner.value has won the game. Right, let's give that a go. See if it's going to work for us. Might have an error here, but let's see if it's going to run. Yes, no, that's, we do that. Yeah, that has value is turning a nullable boolean, so we just need to put that on there. Okay, that's running for us. Let's just get our browser open. Bring that over there so you can see it. Okay, so that's running for us. Let's see if we can get 4 in a row. We do get 4 in a row. Yes, it's told us that red has won the game. And as you can see at the moment, we've played the game, someone has won, but we can't actually reset the game. So we need to go ahead and put in a function for that. Hello! So we need to create a... Sorry, someone on the live messaging just put hello. Going very well, Matt Does Gaming. Thanks very much for posting a message on the live chat. So we need to go ahead and create a reset button. So we need to create it as a button type. Reset game. In fact, we're going to do that. Going to make that appear all the time. Don't want to put me off my time limit. We've still got 23 minutes. We've got plenty of time. We'll be fine. Right, reset game here. So what the reset game is going to do is so what we did in the grid model, the grid class even, is we created this method called reset game. So we can go in here and quite simply call reset game. Like that. So what happens with the reset game? How does the next turn get set? So the next turn, I think in the reset game, so in here we've already got a winner. And what I'm going to say is the winner hasn't got a value at this point. It goes to the next person who didn't take a turn last time. So we can do an if statement around here. So we say if next turn was red, we set it to yellow. I'll set it to red. Otherwise, set it to the actual winner. So with that in mind, we can go back down here. Where have we set it? We probably don't need that. Probably just do that. Let's give that a build and see if it's going to run. Funny feeling it might not. Oh, we've got to fail it. Not able to build at the moment, is it? What's going on here? Oh yes, that's not right, is it? Not right at all. We need to pass in our mouse event arguments. Go here. Pass that in like that. Doing well, that should run. What are we doing for time? We've got 20 minutes left, so we've still got plenty of time. No, it's still failing. I reckon it's back on the grid component. It's probably this bit here where we've got a bit confused. Ah, no, that's what we've done. You need to put the @ so when you're running a Blazor component, you need to put the @ next to the actual method that you're running like that. Give that another build and let's see if that's going to run for us. Once again, oh no, we haven't closed our browser down. I thought we closed our browser down again, but we haven't. Let's go ahead and refresh that. Let's give the reset game a go. Yes, you can see we can actually reset the game. So let's see if we can get 4 in a row. Yeah, we're close. There we go. We've got 4 in a row there. We've got 4 reds there. Reset the game. All being well, the red should go first, which they do. Let's see. Let's try and get yellow. Yeah, 4 in a row there for yellow. You can see we've managed to do it vertically there. Let's reset the game. Yellow should go first. It does. Now let's just test it doing it horizontally and see if we get 4 in a row horizontally. I'm not doing a very good job of that, so let's start that again. There we go. Nice. So we got our game working there now. So let's go ahead. Well, how long have we got? We've got 18 minutes. So let's go ahead and create a scoreboard. And then we can also tidy up some of the CSS as well. The actual grid looks fine, but some of the messaging, like around the actual, the actual resetting and who's won, is not looking very pretty at the moment. So we can go ahead and do that. But first we're going to go ahead and create a scoreboard. So we can do that in the grid class. So we're going to have, what we're going to do, we'll have a integer of red. So this will represent how many times the red person has won. And this will be the yellow. So we're going to be recording that. If we go down to our get winner method, no, we don't want that there. Where do we want it? Yeah, no, I think get winner. Winner is our set next turn. That's where we want it. We can set it underneath here. So if there's not a winner, it sets the next turn. But if there is a winner, then we can go ahead and see whether it's the red or the yellow that's actually won. So we can do a switch statement here for a change. We've done a few if statements. Let's go ahead and do an actual switch statement. So switch winner.value. If it's the case, if it's a red, we can append 1 to the score. Need to put a break in there. Don't need it. We can come out the switch statement at that point. And if it's yellow, we append 1 like that. Now that will go ahead and successfully count our actual, or tally up who's won, whether it's red or yellow. Now we need to put that on the screen, but we're going to go ahead now and we're going to tidy some of this up so it actually appears in the center. What I think we can do with this, we're just going to have a layout. So the whole application is going to be wrapped within this layout, and we can style this layout to appear center on the screen as well, because at the moment I'm on quite a big screen. The actual text is appearing outside the grid, so it's appearing right to the left where the grid is appearing in the center. It doesn't look right. You can put that there, put the layout there. So let's go into our CSS file. Once again, we're going to use our margin left and margin right of auto. And we're going to set a width of 1050 pixels. I think with that in mind, we don't need all that. I think we can get away with just the height in there. So that will center the whole layout. It won't be just the grid, all being well. So we've got that. Where are we going? We're going to there. Well, let's give that a go first and see if that's going to work for us. There we go, that's looking a bit nicer. We're going to put some spacing on that in a bit. But let's go ahead. Sure that it's going to work for us. There we go. So at least now it's not appearing right to the left, it's appearing within the same space as the actual grid. So that's looking a bit better now. You can reset the game. So let's put some spacing in there for the reset game, this part here. I'm going to call it div class message. I'm going to put it around another div HTML attribute. I'm going to put some CSS on the message class. Put a height of 200 pixels. We can put a border around it. We'll put a black border around it. Remember as well, we need to put the score in as well, because we haven't done that yet. We need to go ahead and do that before the time runs out. That's now running for us. Here we go. I think that could probably do with a bit of padding. Maybe it doesn't need the border around it. Not sure on that. Yeah, I really don't think that. I think the height's too high, and I don't think it needs the actual border around it. Put that down to 100 pixels. There we go. So let's go ahead and see if we can get a winner again. Oh, yellow has won the game. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes it's hard to tell where I've actually won the game, but yeah, you can see there, diagonally up, winning the game there. Reset the game. It's all good. Let's get this scoreboard in, because we want to get that in before the time runs out. We're down to 12 minutes. We haven't got too long to go. So we can put the scoreboard. I think we can put it up here. So So we can go in here, we need to be a bit careful here, make sure, because at this point the grid instance might not have been initialized. I really think we need to move this up here, otherwise it's likely to throw an error at some point. We move that up there. We need to close off the if statement down here. And do that. Got our scoreboard up there like that. I mean, we could do it like that. Be another way of doing it, but yeah, we'll leave it like that. That should hopefully give us a scoreboard, all being well. We need to see that the scoreboard's actually working for us though. So we're going to run the application again. There we go, so we've got the scoreboard up there. Probably need to bring that down. We'll worry about that in a minute. Let's try and get a winner. There we go. Oh no, well, I got a winner then. I thought it was yellow's turn, but it's actually red's turn. Need to get a winner. Are you actually going to get a winner or not? I have 3 there, but then I put a red down there. Oh, we're running out. There we go, got a winner there. There we go, and red has won the game, so let's reset that. And win another game, so they're 2-0 up, like that. So we've got the scoreboard working, which is good. It would be nice that every time we actually know whose turn it is next. So we've got just under 10 minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and put that messaging in as well. So where are we going to do that? Where are we going to do that? I'm going to wrap that around in a P tag as well. So it's a paragraph tag. So by default, this button will, we put that around a P tag as well. Each of these will drop on a new line. That's the whole point of a P tag. So we've got that there. Got red and yellow. What are we going to do? We're going to determine whose go it was next. So as that's already set, we can put grid, go back into our grid model. We've got our next turn here, so we can just simply call that next turn.value. Oh no, we don't need value because it's not a nullable type. Turn is next, like that. And that should hopefully help us determine actually whose go it is. Let's run that again. Okay, that's running for us. Yeah, so yellow's turn was first. We need to push that down a little bit. It's got quite a lot of text there now, and it's pushing it onto the actual grid. We might have to move it a bit more across. There we go. You can see that's working fine. Got yellow and then red. Red. Yes, so you can see it's alternating each time. So to the person who actually messaged me earlier, wondering whether they should stick with Blazor or go with, stick with Angular or go with Blazor. I mean, this is what you can do in Blazor within an hour. I know we did a few shortcuts with the winner, but it looks pretty impressive. And it's using WebAssembly as well, which is very much the future for client-side technology. So I do think it's a little bit ahead of itself at the moment. Maybe in a few years it will really take off. I don't think it has quite yet, but I'm really enjoying it. And the fact you can actually code client-side functionality in C# is a big bonus, particularly if you're a .NET developer like myself. Okay, so we're down to 7 minutes, so we've still got a little bit of time left. We need to sort this out, and we're going to go ahead and sort that out. I personally never got on with Angular, so I'm a bit biased with Blazor. I actually prefer React in terms of the JavaScript framework, but it's obviously down to you. Angular is still very popular. Probably it's between Angular and React as to which one's the most popular in terms of JavaScript frameworks. So we need to sort out some of this styling. I think what we could do actually, not put it in a paragraph tag and just put a break line next to it. Do the same here, put a break line. Why it's come up with browser file extensions, I don't know where it got that from. Actually, what we can do is we can put the button alongside whoever turns next. Although we might actually it might be easier to put the button before that actual text, because that's going to keep changing and moving the button. So something's gone a bit wrong here as well. I don't think it's liking that at the moment. Why is it not liking that? And we've got 5 minutes left. Really don't know why that's erroring. Give it a build and see if it actually builds. No. Why it's not liking that? Maybe it's a div statement that's missing or something. Definitely not liking it, is it? Maybe it's not liking that. We could just put it inside here like that. Okay, yep, I think that's working now. Hopefully that's looking a bit prettier. There we go. Could do with a space there. You can see it's pushed it up a little bit now. Let's try and get a winner. There we go. Yellow has won the game. They lead 1-0. Have a look. Can we get another winner? I'm wondering if we can get a draw. Interesting to see. We didn't get a draw because there's a winner there. You can see 4 diagonal. See if we can get a draw. How long we've got? 3 minutes. 3.5 minutes. I suppose if I just do this all the time, there's never going to be. Oh no, there might be. Keep filling up all the squares. Wondering, I just want to know what happens. I need to be careful here. It's red's turn next, so that needs to go there. Yellow, red, red. Any way of winning? I don't think there is. I think we are going to get a draw here. Okay, so nothing really happens. Probably could do with some sort of message in there. How long we got? 2 minutes. Wondering if we can do that. 2 minutes. So let's have a think about this. Yes, we could probably set something in here, couldn't we? So we know here that it's once it's found a space that's a piece that's unoccupied, it's going to break out of this. So we know down here that if it ever gets to here, we can set some message in. So we can go back into our grid and we can just set a boolean of draw. And down here, set draw to true. Now when we reset the game, we need to make sure that gets set to false. So we can go down here, make sure that's just set to false. In a minute and a half just over. So where are we? Let's go back to our grid component.razor. We set the draw here. And then we can do something like if grid draw game is a draw. So if we do and I think the reason being why we had to wrap that inside there is because it's not wrapped within a HTML tag, and I think that's the reason why we had to wrap it within this actual, whatever these things are called, anchor tags. No. Right, let's try and get a draw. We've only got 50 seconds left. Get a draw. Right, so here we go, got 40 seconds. Is this messaging going to show or not? Go along the bottom. Didn't want to do that, but got the red, yellow along, although we need to be careful here because there might be a diagonal winner. Yeah. Okay, so we're not going to have time to do that, but you can take a look at the code. The code will be available on roundthecode.com/code-examples, probably within the next couple of hours of this live stream ending. So you can go ahead, download that, have a look, run the application for yourself, and see what you think of it. That's time up. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for the messages as well. And yeah, if you like this live stream, give it a like. Also remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/roundthecode. And enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.